Chosen one, let me tell you something that heaven itself just confirmed. Right now, in this very moment, heaven stopped everything it was doing because of you. Imagine this with me. The throne room of God, filled with worship and glory, suddenly went silent. Not because of disappointment, not because of failure, but because of unstoppable joy. The angels leaned in. The heavenly hosts who sing without ceasing paused. And the Father himself, he smiled. Why? Because you finally broke through what everyone said was impossible. For years, people whispered lies over your life. Maybe they said you were too old, that your best years were behind you. Maybe they told you it was too late, too broken, too heavy to carry any further. They may have laughed, mocked, or even pitied you. And in your darkest hours, you started to believe it yourself. You thought you were too tired, too wounded to ever see miracles again. But today, yes, today something shifted. You chose faith when your heart was screaming fear. You stood up when everything in your body told you to stay down. You believed in the impossible when the possible looked like the ceiling over your life, and heaven couldn't contain its joy. Do you realize how powerful that moment was? That simple decision of faith shattered lies that had been hanging over your life for decades. Right now, as these words are reaching you, God's smile is unlocking things that were locked for generations. Doors that had been rusted shut are creaking open. Dreams that were buried under years of disappointment are stirring back to life. What the enemy thought was dead, what he thought was finished, is suddenly breathing again. Some of you have been cornered by the enemy. He whispered, "You're forgotten, you're finished, you missed it." But he was wrong, because today you proved him wrong. Heaven is erupting in celebration over you. Now let me ask you, can you feel it in your spirit? That surge of strength that wasn't there yesterday, that whisper of hope that you thought was gone for good. That's heaven, confirming what God has been waiting to release into your life. But hear me, what I'm sharing with you right now isn't just encouragement. This is not a pep talk. This is intelligence from the throne room. This is the reason why heaven's joy over you today is not just a smile, it's a signal. A sign that your greatest, most impossible breakthrough has already been set in motion. And here's the truth: you didn't stumble across this message by accident. This isn't a coincidence. This is divine timing. Heaven wrote this word specifically for you. Out of billions of people, God chose this moment to connect your heart to this message. This is your hour. This is your moment. If you turn away now, you'll miss the one thing heaven has been waiting to release into your life. So, I need you to do something bold. Don't just sit there quietly. Respond. Say amen, out loud, right where you are. Let heaven hear your voice. Let the enemy know you're awake. And if you feel this word landing in your spirit like lightning, I want you to type 777 inches, the comments right now. 7 is the number of completion, the number of God's perfect work. When you declare it, you're saying, "Lord, I agree. What you started in me, you are completing right now." And soon we're going to move into 888, the number of new beginnings. But for now, this is the moment to declare completion over every old cycle of defeat. Pause for a moment and think, when was the last time you truly believed heaven was watching you? When was the last time you dared to imagine that God himself might smile over your life? It's happening now. The creator of galaxies is looking at you with delight. Not because you became perfect, not because you figured it all out, but because you dared to believe him in the middle of your fear. Maybe you've been told your season of breakthrough passed you by like a train you'd never catch. But the truth is, God's timetable isn't like ours. He waited for this exact moment when your faith would finally collide with his promise. And that collision has sent shockwaves through eternity. Beloved, picture this: angels who have been watching your journey from the beginning, The ones who saw every tear you cried in the dark are now celebrating. They're rejoicing because you finally stepped into what they knew you were capable of all along. All of heaven is cheering. They did it. They chose faith. They broke through. Do you feel the weight of that? This is not just about you. This is about what God is going to do through you. That smile from heaven is about more than your personal joy. It's about the ripple effect of your breakthrough. It's about generations being changed, destinies being rewritten, and doors being opened for people who will be blessed because you dared to believe. And friend, I want you to know something deep in your heart. This is just the beginning. Heaven's applause isn't just a momentary celebration. It's the sound of a new chapter being opened in your life. You are stepping into an era where the impossible becomes your new normal, where closed doors swing wide, and where dreams long buried rise again. So let me ask you directly, are you ready to walk in it? Are you ready to step into what God has been holding back until you were ready to receive it? Then don't stay silent. Don't let this moment slip away. Say it out loud, heaven is rejoicing over me. Type it in the comments so that you're not just hearing this, but declaring it, owning it, and sealing it. Because this moment right here, it's holy, it's sacred. It's the kind of moment that eternity will remember. Heaven paused for you, God smiled over you, and the impossible just began to move in your favor. So stay close, lean in, and don't miss what's coming next. And if this word is stirring something deep in you, hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, and join this family of faith. Because together we're not just watching miracles, we're living in them. Type 777 below to seal it. And get ready, because 888 is coming. Chosen one, let's be real for a moment. You didn't get here by walking on smooth pavement. You've been through storms that most people would never survive. And yet here you are, still standing, still breathing, still listening. That alone is proof that God has had his hand on your life, even in the moments when you thought he'd forgotten you. Let me ask you, when was the last time you looked in the mirror and didn't see the battle scars staring back at you? When was the last time you woke up without that ache pressing against your chest like a weight you couldn't shake? For some of you, it's been so long you can't even remember. Because life hasn't just been hard, it's been brutal. You've buried people you never thought you would outlive. You've been betrayed by the very hands you trusted most. You've watched your bank account drain until the numbers kept you awake at night. You've walked through the quiet of a house that used to be filled with laughter, now echoing with loneliness. And people had the nerve to tell you, just move on, get over it, count your blessings. But how do you count blessings when you're still bleeding from wounds that won't heal? How do you smile when every smile feels like a mask to hide the pain? You've been through hell, not the Sunday school version, but the kind of hell that strips you down to nothing. The kind that leaves you crying at 2 a.m. in your kitchen, wondering if this is all life will ever be, and yet you survived. You walked through fires that should have left you smelling like smoke, but you came out without the stench of defeat. You've endured storms that should have drowned you, betrayals that should have broken you, losses that should have buried you 6 feet under. But here you are, and the truth that stings the most, people thought you were finished. They whispered behind your back. They gave you those pitying looks, the ones that said, "Poor thing, they'll never get back up again." Conversations stopped when you entered the room. And the hardest part of all, you believed it too. You thought your story was over. You thought your best chapters had already been written. But hear me, God never writes the end over a life he's still shaping. Think about Sarah, 90 years old, barren, long past every biological possibility. Abraham, 100 years old, worn and weary. By every human measure, their story was finished. But God whispered a promise: Sarah will bear a son, and the impossible became Isaac. Think about David, just a shepherd boy with a slingshot standing in front of a 9-foot giant wrapped in bronze and fury. Everyone who looked at that battlefield saw a massacre waiting to happen. But God saw something different. He saw a king in the making. Do you see the pattern? The impossible is God's playground. It's the stage where he performs his best work. And the same God who brought Isaac from Sarah's barren womb, the same God who turned a shepherd boy into a warrior king, is the same God who's been carrying you through every storm, every betrayal, every night of silent tears. You see, even with your scars, even with your doubts gnawing at you like acid in the night, something inside you refused to die. That stubborn spark, that flicker of light that kept whispering not yet when everything screamed it's over, that's not just willpower. That's divine DNA. That's God's own spirit inside of you, refusing to surrender. And that's why you're still here. That's why after everything you've been through you haven't given up. Because your story isn't finished. Let me pause and ask you, what's the one word you would use to describe the battle you've survived? Is it betrayal, loss, sickness, addiction, loneliness? Whatever your word is, I want you to type it in the comments right now. Not as a badge of shame, but as a testimony. Because your survival is proof. Your scars are proof. Proof that the impossible can be conquered with God. Proof that the storm may rage, but it doesn't get the final word. And here's the truth. Heaven didn't smile over you in spite of your scars. It smiled because of them. The breakthrough you just stepped into didn't happen around your pain. It happened through it. Picture this moment again. Heaven watching as you made the decision nobody saw. Heaven held its breath when you forgave the person who destroyed your trust. Heaven rejoicing when you walked away from that addiction after 20 years of drowning in it. Heaven applauding when you chose to believe again after years of prayers that felt like they bounced off a brass ceiling. You thought nobody noticed, but heaven did. Beloved, this is why you've been marked by God. Not because you've been perfect, but because you've been faithful. Every scar you carry is not evidence of failure, it's evidence of survival. Every wrinkle etched into your face is not a sign of decline, it's a record of victories won. Every tear that fell into your pillow was watering the soil of your breakthrough. And maybe right now you're still limping from battles that nearly killed you. But let me tell you, God does his greatest work with wounded people. He doesn't discard you because of your scars. He chooses you because of them. Just as the resurrected Christ still carried the nail scars in his hands, your scars are not something to hide. They are evidence of a miracle. The truth is, you've been walking around with divine DNA inside of you all along, and the enemy tried to snuff it out. He thought betrayal would do it. He thought loss would do it. He thought heartbreak would bury you for good. But that spark wouldn't die. And because of that, you are still here, ready to walk into the impossible. Chosen one, let this sink in. Your scars are not the end of your story. They are the beginning of a new chapter. The very thing the enemy meant to destroy you has become the testimony that will inspire others. Your scars are your sermon. Your survival is your message. And heaven is amplifying your voice, so that others can find hope in your victory. So lift your head. Don't hide your battle wounds anymore. Show them, testify, because your scars are shining evidence that the God of the impossible still moves, still heals, still redeems. And what he started in Sarah, what he completed in Abraham, what he fulfilled in David, he is doing in you. The impossible has always been his specialty. And now it's becoming yours, chosen one. Let's talk about the moment that changed everything for you, the impossible decision. Because make no mistake, what moved heaven to erupt in joy wasn't something ordinary. It wasn't just you getting up and going through another day. It was that moment you chose to do the one thing everyone thought you couldn't. The one thing the enemy was convinced you'd never do. Maybe for you it was forgiveness. That quiet, trembling moment when you finally forgave the person who shattered your trust. Forgiveness didn't erase what they did. It didn't minimize the betrayal or the pain. But when you forgave, chains broke not just off their life, but off yours. Heaven saw it. Angels paused mid-flight to watch you release that bitterness. The Father leaned forward and smiled, because forgiveness always releases the supernatural. Or maybe your impossible decision was walking away from the bottle. After 20 years of drowning your pain in addiction, you set it down. Maybe your hands were shaking, maybe your heart was pounding, maybe the cravings roared like lions, but you walked away. And that one impossible step sent shockwaves into the spiritual realm. Heaven said, look at them, they chose life over death. They chose me over destruction. For some of you, the impossible decision was simply to believe again. After years of prayers that seemed to bounce back like echoes off a brass ceiling, after endless nights where your faith felt like ashes, you whispered, God, I still trust you. And that whisper carried more weight than 1,000 sermons. That whisper shook hell to its core. See, beloved, heaven was holding its breath, waiting for that moment. And when you did the impossible, when you dared to step out in faith, time itself seemed to pause. The angels stopped mid-song. The elders before the throne set down their crowns. The Father smiled, the kind of smile that speaks galaxies into existence. You didn't just make a choice, you shifted the atmosphere. Think about Noah. Day after day, year after year, he hammered nails into an ark while people laughed in his face. You're crazy, old man, building a boat with no water in sight, they jeered. But Noah kept building. Every hammer strike was an act of impossible faith. He wasn't just building a boat, he was building obedience in the face of ridicule. And when the flood came, his faith became the salvation of his family. Chosen one, your decision today was your hammer strike. The world may mock it, may not understand. It may roll their eyes. But heaven is already preparing your flood, not of destruction, but of blessing. Think about Esther, a young woman standing in the palace, facing the king's throne uninvited. She knew the law. She knew stepping in without being called could mean her death. And yet she whispered, if I perish, I perish. That impossible courage didn't just save her life, it saved a nation. Your impossible decision, whether it was forgiving, leaving, believing, or stepping forward, has saved more than just your own future. It has shifted the trajectory of your family, your community, your legacy. You thought it was personal. Heaven knows it was generational. This wasn't ordinary faith. This was the kind of faith that stops time, the kind of faith that makes demons tremble and angels sing, the kind of faith that forces hell to retreat and heaven to advance. And you chose it. Now I need you to hear this. You've been carrying the weight of impossibility for so long. Impossible relationships that broke your heart. Impossible finances that drained your hope. Impossible health battles that left scars on your body and soul. Impossible dreams that seemed like cruel jokes because they never came true. Everyone around you told you to be realistic, to lower your expectations, to stop believing for more. But today you broke through the sound barrier of the possible. You entered the realm where God specializes, where the impossible becomes manifest. And do you know what that means? It means the same power that split the Red Sea for Moses is moving in your life. The same faith that lifted Peter out of the boat onto the raging waters is rising in you. The same voice that called Lazarus out of the grave after 4 days is calling you out of every tomb of doubt, fear, and shame. That's why heaven smiled. Not because you figured everything out, not because you became perfect, but because you finally trusted him enough to try the impossible. Let me pause and ask you a question. What's the impossible God is asking you to believe for next? What's the next? If I perish step, because faith is never static. It keeps moving, it keeps stretching. It keeps pulling you deeper into the supernatural. And right now, I want you to declare it out loud. Say, heaven rejoiced over me today. Write it in the comments. Own it. Claim it. Speak it until it echoes through your bones. Because when you say it, you're not just repeating words, you're aligning your spirit with what heaven has already declared. Chosen one, this is more than motivation. This is a revelation. The impossible decision you made today didn't just change your present, it rewrote your future. It shifted the spiritual DNA of your bloodline. It planted seeds of courage that your children and grandchildren will harvest. It tore down barriers that stood for generations and opened doors that will never shut again. So, don't let anyone tell you it was small. Don't let anyone downplay your step of faith. Heaven knows it was monumental, and soon the earth will see the fruit of it too. Remember this. Every time you choose faith over fear, you are swinging a hammer into the impossible. Every time you say yes to God when your flesh says no, you are parting your own Red Sea. Every time you forgive, believe, or obey, you are walking on water. Every time you trust again, you are stepping out of your grave. And that's why the smile of heaven isn't just a passing glance. It's the beginning of a flood of blessings, favor and miracles being released over your life. So keep building, keep stepping, keep believing. Because what started with one impossible decision is about to multiply into a legacy of victory. Chosen one, listen carefully. What you did today was not just about you. Heaven's smile wasn't only for your personal victory. It was for something far greater, something eternal. Because the breakthrough you stepped into doesn't end with you, it multiplies through you. Every choice you've made in faith, every prayer whispered through tears, every yes you gave God when your flesh screamed no planted seeds. And today, heaven watered those seeds with pure joy. Right now, those seeds are sprouting into a tree of life that will feed generations you may never even meet. You thought your decision was small, hidden, unseen, but heaven sees differently. Heaven sees generations. Every time you stood up when your knees were shaking, heaven saw it as a generational earthquake. Every time you chose to believe when doubt roared in your ears, heaven marked it as a shift in your family line. Every time you forgave, instead of holding on to bitterness, you were planting a seed of freedom that your children and grandchildren will inherit. Let me tell you the truth. Your children are about to inherit courage they didn't even know ran in their blood. Your grandchildren will carry a strength they won't be able to explain. Your community will taste fruit from a tree you planted today with your impossible faith. And this is why you can't afford to believe the lie that your age disqualifies you. The world may have whispered, "You're too old, too set in your ways, too late to change anything that matters." But heaven laughs at that lie. Look at what just happened. Your gray hair isn't a mark of weakness, it's a crown of wisdom. Your scars aren't proof of failure, they're proof of survival. Your wrinkles aren't signs of decline, they're victory lines carved by every battle you fought and won. Time doesn't weaken the chosen, it refines them like gold in fire. Think about Paul, beaten, shipwrecked, thrown into prison more times than he could count. By the world's standards, he was finished too old, too broken, too controversial. But those letters he wrote from a jail cell soaked with tears and pain outlived the Roman Empire itself. 2,000 years later, those words are still shaking, nations still bringing hope, still birthing faith. Do you see it? Your story doesn't end when the world says it should. With God, your story multiplies. Chosen one, this is the ripple effect. What you did in faith today will echo for generations. That prayer you prayed when you thought no one was listening, it will be answered in your children's children. That stand you took when it seemed easier to bow, it will empower others to rise. That seed of obedience you planted will become a harvest of blessing for people you'll never meet. I want you to think about this. When Abraham believed God, he didn't just receive a son, he became the father of nations. When Ruth clung to Naomi and chose to trust the God of Israel, she didn't just survive, she became part of the lineage of King David and ultimately of Jesus Christ himself. Your breakthrough is not just for you, it is a generational inheritance. And here's the beauty of it. Heaven didn't smile because you finally became perfect. Heaven smiled because you believed when everything told you not to. That belief that faith is like a stone dropped in water. The ripples stretch out farther than your eyes can see. Some of you have been worrying, what will I leave behind? What will my legacy be? Let me tell you, your legacy is being written right now. Every act of faith is a brushstroke on the masterpiece God is painting through your life. Every yes is adding color, depth, and beauty to a story that will inspire generations. And your family, your children, your grandchildren will reap what you have sown. The courage you showed today will flow through their veins. The faith you exercised will become their inheritance. The impossible you conquered will be their foundation. This is why heaven erupted in joy today. Because what God smiled over wasn't just your victory, it was the victory of everyone who will draw strength from your example. Heaven saw the domino effect, the chain reaction, the multiplication of blessing that began with your impossible faith. Chosen one, you are not just living for yourself, you are shaping the future. You are rewriting your family tree. You are planting seeds of courage, resilience, and faith that will bear fruit long after you've gone home to glory. And let me encourage you, your scars don't disqualify you. They authenticate you. They prove to your children and grandchildren that miracles are real. They show that storms can be survived, betrayals can be healed, losses can be redeemed. Your scars are your testimony. Don't underestimate what your yes means. Don't minimize what your faith has set in motion. You are carrying something bigger than yourself. So I need you to declare it right now. Type the word legacy in the comments. Say it out loud. My faith is leaving a legacy. Own it, claim it, seal it. Because every step of faith you take from this day forward isn't just for you, it's feeding a generational harvest. Think about it. There will be people years from now, maybe even centuries, who are blessed because of what you did in faith today. Just like Paul's letters, just like Abraham's obedience, just like Ruth's loyalty, your life will continue to speak long after your voice is silent. Beloved, this is what makes you chosen. You weren't just called to survive, you were called to multiply. You weren't just called to live, you were called to leave a legacy. And heaven is smiling because today you stepped into that calling. So don't stop here. Keep sowing, keep believing, keep planting seeds of faith. Because heaven is watering them, and the harvest is going to be more abundant than you could ever imagine. This is your generational breakthrough. And it is only the beginning. Chosen one, let's confront the lies that have been spoken over your life. Because for too long the enemy has whispered words that tried to convince you your time was over. Maybe you've heard them in your head late at night. Maybe you've felt them in your spirit when you looked in the mirror. You're too old for miracles. You missed your moment. God has moved on to someone younger, stronger, more qualified. And little by little those lies started to sound believable. You began to wonder, maybe it's true. Maybe my best days are behind me. Maybe God has forgotten about me. But today something shifted. Today you looked those lies in the eye and said, no more. Today you chose God's promise over the world's prediction. You chose his truth over the enemy's deception, and heaven exploded in joy, because that was your impossible moment. Do you remember Moses? He was standing at the edge of the Red Sea with Pharaoh's army breathing down his neck. The people cried out, "We're trapped, we're finished." Naturally, it was impossible. There was no way forward, no way back. But Moses did the one thing nobody expected. He raised his staff. He dared to obey God's command, even when everything screamed defeat, and the sea split wide open. That's exactly what you just did. When the enemy told you it was over, you raised your staff. You chose obedience. You chose faith. And now the waters are parting before you. Think about Peter. The disciples were in the boat. The storm was raging. The waves were crashing. And then Jesus said one simple word, "Come." Everyone else clung to the boat in fear. But Peter stepped out. He did the unthinkable. He walked on water. Your decision to believe again, to step out of the safety of the boat, may have looked crazy to the people around you. But heaven calls it faith. And just like Peter, you are walking on the impossible right now. And then there's Lazarus, 4 days dead. The mourners had already gathered. The tomb was sealed. Everyone agreed it was finished. But Jesus stood outside that tomb and called his name. And Lazarus walked out, still wrapped in grave clothes. Chosen one, do you see what's happening? That's what you just did. You walked out of the tomb of doubt that had been holding you captive for years. You walked out of the grave of fear. You walked out of the prison of shame. And heaven roared with joy. Here's what you need to understand. God didn't smile because you had all the answers. He didn't smile because you finally got everything right. He smiled because you were faithful, because you trusted him enough to step into the impossible. Every time you've been knocked down and got back up, that was training for this moment. Every tear you cried in secret was watering the soil of this breakthrough. Every whispered prayer when hope felt dead was building toward this explosion of divine joy. And now, chosen one, you've proven that the enemy is a liar. The labels he tried to put on you, too old, too broken, too late, were shattered the moment you chose to believe God's word over his lies. Let me ask you this. What lie has the enemy been using to hold you back? What phrase has been echoing in your mind? You're not enough. You'll never change. You've gone too far. I want you to recognize it right now. And then in faith, I want you to declare the opposite. If the enemy said you're too old, declare, "I am crowned with wisdom." If he said you missed your chance, declare, "God's timing is perfect." If he said you're finished, declare, "My story is multiplying." This is how you overturn the lies, by speaking truth louder than the enemy's whispers. You see, the enemy's greatest weapon has always been deception. He doesn't need to chain your hands if he can chain your mind. He doesn't need to close doors if he can convince you they're locked. But today, you proved him wrong. You discovered that the chains were paper thin all along, that the doors were only shut in appearance, that the ceiling was never a ceiling, it was just a lie waiting to be broken. Chosen one, hear me, this is your Red Sea moment. This is your water walking step. This is your Lazarus resurrection. And it's not just a story you'll tell one day, it's your reality right now. So don't you dare go back to believing those lies. Don't you dare sit down in defeat when heaven is standing in victory over your life. Instead, lift your voice. Declare what God has done. Say it until it echoes in your bones. Heaven rejoiced over me. Write it in the comments. Proclaim it in your living room. Let your children hear it. Let your neighbors hear it. Let the enemy hear it. Because this moment changes everything. The lie has been overturned. The truth has been established. And the impossible is now your portion. Beloved, God didn't call you to be perfect. He called you to be faithful. He didn't ask you to have it all figured out. He asked you to trust him enough to step forward anyway. And when you did, heaven smiled. So walk boldly. Carry that confidence. Because the same God who split the sea, who called Peter out of the boat, who raised Lazarus from the grave, is the same God who is smiling over you right now. And if he did it for them, he will do it for you. This is the truth the enemy tried to bury under lies. But tonight, those lies are overturned, and your freedom has begun. Chosen one, take a deep breath and let this truth sink in. What God began in you today is not going to stop with you. This breakthrough isn't just about your present moment. It's about legacy. It's about an eternal masterpiece that heaven has been painting with your life from the very beginning. Every step you've taken in faith, every prayer you've prayed when no one was watching, every tear you've cried in silence, it's all been brushstrokes on God's canvas. And beloved, this canvas is bigger than your lifetime. It stretches into generations you may never meet. It ripples into communities that don't even know your name yet. That's the beauty of being chosen. You are part of something much larger than yourself. Think of it like this: when you said yes to God instead of no, that wasn't just a personal victory. That was heaven adding color to a story that will inspire countless others. When you chose faith over fear, you weren't just strengthening your own spirit, you were painting courage into the DNA of your children, grandchildren, and spiritual descendants. That's why the Bible says we live by faith, not by sight. Because what you're doing right now in obedience doesn't just affect your own eyes, it affects eyes yet to be born. Look at Paul. The world thought he was finished. They beat him, locked him up, shipwrecked him, mocked him. But in those dark prison cells with chains rattling around his wrists, he wrote letters. Simple words scratched out on paper, birthed in tears and pain. And those words outlived empires. Rome crumbled, emperors fell, but Paul's words still stand. 2,000 years later, his letters are shaping nations, building churches, and breathing life into people just like you and me. Chosen one, that's legacy. That's what heaven sees when it looks at you. Not just your struggles today, but the multiplication of your faith for generations to come. Maybe you've been asking yourself, what will I leave behind? What difference will my life really make? Let me tell you, your legacy is already being written. Every act of obedience is part of it. Every impossible choice of faith is another line in the story. Every time you refused to quit, you were painting another stroke of glory onto the masterpiece God is creating with your life. And here's the truth: legacy doesn't come from perfection. Legacy comes from faithfulness. Heaven doesn't celebrate polished resumes or spotless records. Heaven celebrates the ones who got knocked down 7 times but stood up 8. Heaven celebrates the ones who said yes through tears. Heaven celebrates scars that tell stories of survival and redemption. Your gray hair, your wrinkles, your scars, they're not signs of decline. They're proof of battles, fought victories, won, and a faith that endured. In God's eyes, they are crowns of glory. They are part of your testimony, and your testimony is the seed of someone else's miracle. Chosen one, your life is not just a story, it's a sermon. Every decision you've made in faith has been preaching louder than words ever could. People are watching you, even if you don't realize it. Your children are watching, your community is watching, and heaven is watching. And the way you've kept walking even when the road was hard has already been planting seeds in hearts around you. That's why I want you to understand, your breakthrough isn't ending with you. It's multiplying through you. Your faith today has set in motion blessings that will outlive you. You've rewritten your family tree. You've shifted spiritual DNA. And the generations that come after you will carry strength, courage, and faith because you chose to believe when everything screamed, give up. Let me remind you, Abraham didn't just receive Isaac, he became the father of nations. Ruth didn't just survive, she stepped into a legacy that birthed a king and ultimately the Messiah. Your story is the same. What seems small now will echo for eternity. So here's what I need you to do. Right now, declare it. My faith is leaving a legacy. Write it in the comments. Say it out loud. Because when you declare it, you're agreeing with heaven's perspective over your life. And let me tell you something beautiful, this masterpiece. God is painting with your life. It's not finished yet. Every step you take adds another layer of depth, another shade of glory. Every act of obedience is another brushstroke. And when heaven looks at the canvas, it doesn't see your failures, your regrets, or your mistakes. It sees redemption, restoration, and beauty. You may not see the full picture yet. From where you're standing, it might look like chaos paint splattered across the canvas, colors that don't seem to make sense. But when God steps back, he sees the masterpiece. And one day you'll see it too. Beloved, you are not forgotten. You are not overlooked. You are not finished. You are chosen, and your life is a living painting of God's faithfulness. And when heaven smiles over you, it's not just about what happened today. It's about the story being written through you for generations. So keep walking, keep trusting, keep painting with your faith, because what started as a breakthrough for you will become a testimony for multitudes. And one day, when your children and grandchildren face their own battles, they'll remember you. They'll say, if they can believe, so can I. If they could survive, so can I. If they could trust God for the impossible, so will I. Chosen one, this is your legacy, and heaven is still smiling because of it. Chosen one, as we come to this sacred closing moment, I want you to pause and let the weight of everything sink deep into your spirit. This isn't just another message you stumbled across online. This was heaven's appointment with your soul. Heaven stopped, God smiled, and your breakthrough became a divine turning point. Now, before you step back into your world, I need you to carry with you 3 eternal truths. These aren't just ideas to remember, they are anchors to hold on to, no matter what storms may come. First truth: what happened today wasn't an accident. You didn't just happen to press play. You didn't just randomly watch this video. God orchestrated this moment, and his smile over you wasn't a fleeting feeling, it was a divine declaration. It was heaven's way of announcing, your story is far from over. The impossible you conquered today has shifted something in the heavenly realm, and that shift is now working its way into every corner of your earthly life. So when doubt comes whispering, when the enemy tries to tell you this was just wishful thinking, remember this moment. Remember that heaven paused, angels leaned in, and God himself smiled because of your faith. Second truth: your breakthrough wasn't just about you. It was about everyone whose life you will touch from this day forward. The courage you showed, the faith you exercised, the scars you carried, all of it has become part of a legacy that will outlive you. You've become living proof that God still moves in miraculous ways. You are a testimony that he still chooses ordinary people to do extraordinary things. And you are the evidence that it's never too late for a divine turnaround. Third truth: you are not walking this journey alone, not for one single step. The same God who smiled over you today is the same God who promised, I will never leave you nor forsake you. He is not finished with you yet. In fact, this breakthrough was only the beginning of what he wants to do in and through your life. You may have felt forgotten by people, overlooked by the world, but heaven has been keeping perfect records. Every tear you shed, every prayer you whispered, every time you kept going when quitting, would have been easier. It all built to this moment. And the moments that are still coming. Beloved, let me tell you something beautiful. You are not just connected to heaven, you are connected to a family of faith. Right here in this very community are people who understand your journey, people who have walked through pain, who have fought doubt, who are celebrating your breakthrough as if it were their own. This isn't just a YouTube channel. This is a family of the chosen, a gathering of those who refuse to give up on God's promises. So let me ask you, knowing what you know now, feeling what you feel in your spirit right now, are you ready? Are you ready to step fully into the impossible life God has prepared for you? Are you ready to stop apologizing for existing and start claiming the territory heaven already assigned to you? If you are, then let your voice be heard. In the comments below, tell us what impossible thing God is calling you to believe for next. Don't hold back. Your testimony might be the exact word someone else needs to hear. And don't stop there. Share this word with someone you love, someone who needs to be reminded that God still smiles, that miracles still happen, and that it's never too late for a divine breakthrough. Hit that subscribe button, not just to stay connected to content, but to stay connected to a community that believes with you, prays with you, and celebrates every victory as if it were our own. Now, before we close, let me pray for you. And I don't want you to just listen passively. I want you to receive this prayer deep in your spirit. Father God, I thank you for this chosen one who has stayed until the end of this message. I thank you that their heart was prepared to receive what you wanted to speak today. Lord, I pray that your smile over them becomes a covering of favor everywhere they go. Let it follow them into every room, every conversation, every decision. God, I ask that the impossible they conquered today multiplies into breakthrough after breakthrough. Where the enemy meant destruction, let your joy bring restoration. For those struggling with doubt, meet them in their weakness. Let your strength be perfected in their vulnerability. Give them signs, confirmations, and tangible evidence that you are real, that you see them, and that you are working for their good. I declare blessing over their health, their relationships, their finances, and their dreams. Let no weapon formed against them prosper. Let every door that should be opened swing wide, and every door that should remain closed stay firmly shut for their protection. Most of all, Lord, let them never forget this moment. On the days when life feels impossible again, remind them that you smiled over them today. Remind them that you called them chosen. Remind them that you declared their breakthrough. And remind them of your promise to never leave or forsake them. In the powerful name of Jesus, I pray that they walk in the fullness of everything you have prepared. That they live as the chosen ones they are carrying, your joy, your peace, and your power wherever they go. Amen. Chosen one, thank you for spending this sacred time with us. Thank you for opening your heart, for staying to the very end, and for daring to believe that God still does the impossible. Remember this, you are not alone. You are chosen. You are loved. And your story is just beginning. Now seal it. Type 777 inches the comments to declare, I am walking in the impossible and God is smiling over me. Share this message, subscribe to this family of faith, and walk boldly into the life heaven has been preparing for you all along. This is your moment. This is your hour. And this is only the beginning.